There's not long left in the season, which means there's not much ground to make up, so let's make sure we at least get the captain picks right. First up on the shortlist is Saka against Bournemouth at home, a contender is Haaland against Wolves at home, and finally Palmer against West Ham at home. Whilst Palmer and Saka get an additional point for every goal scored, and plus 1 point in the XG calculations as well, Haaland still dominates the non-penalty stats per 90 minutes. It is worth noting that Palmer's got more promising underlying stats than Saka, and his output's much higher as well. Both of those players are on indirect free kicks and corners. As for Palmer, he gets to take direct free kicks as well, which is something Saka doesn't get to take. Haaland takes the occasional direct free kick, but that's not often. As for penalty duties, all three players are on them for their respective clubs. You could say that Saka's at a slight disadvantage because he sometimes gives them to his teammates. Now we'll take a look at the probability. We do need to consider that these odds are based on the assumption that each player plays 90 minutes, and we will assess the expected minutes later on in the video. That strongly applies to Haaland, who's got the highest anytime goal scorer odds. He has just returned from injury, but of course if he plays the full match, he's by far the best captain. But the question is he actually going to do that? If he was, he'd only have a 20% chance of blanking. But again, let's not get too excited because he has just returned from injury like I mentioned earlier. We need to factor in the weighted odds as well. Don't forget that the other two players get 1 additional point for every goal scored. Before we move on, I just want to point out that Saka's ahead of Palmer on the anytime goal scorer odds and the anytime assist odds. Now we'll take a look at the points projections, where he's got higher on Fantasy Football Fix and FPL Review as well. None of that matters too much to Haaland. He's got the highest figure overall on FPL Review. However, on Fantasy Football Fix, they've got him level with Saka. By comparing the opposition's defence, we can see Palmer's got by far the easiest fixture this game week. In fact, West Ham have got the 3rd worst expected goals conceded figure in the whole league. To back that up, they've also got the 4th worst goals conceded per 90 minutes figure as well. I'd say Saka and Haaland have a similar fixture difficulty rating from an attacking perspective. They're both pretty average defences. I don't think Arsenal and City will be fazed being at home and going for the league. The reason Wolves' clean sheet odds are slightly worse than Bournemouth is the fact that City have a slightly better attack, and that does help the probability of Haaland contributing towards a goal ever so slightly. Before we draw up a conclusion, we're going to carry out a quick risk assessment. This video has been recorded before the Chelsea and Spurs match. That's because there's less than a 24-hour turnaround between that and the deadline. This is just so you've got time to watch it. Whilst you're watching this video, you'll know how many minutes Palmer played last night. Even if he played 90 minutes, his expected minutes won't drop by that much. He's absolutely fundamental to that Chelsea attack. To be fair, it's not ideal that he doesn't even get 3 full recovery days, whilst the other two players have got a full week's worth of rest nearly. Saka got to play 90 minutes in his last match. That's promising for the next one, especially with the gap in between the two matches. As for Haaland, Jerry only played 28 minutes and he did return from injury, but none of that seems to impact his expected minutes too much. So combining that information with all the other information that we've got, I think the best captain this game week is Haaland. If you found this video informative, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any future videos like this.